We downsized 3 years ago to move out here, and somehow we've refilled a 2-bedroom unit with an unbelievable amount of stuff. If you're thinking about moving overseas in the next 12 months to 2 years, start selling now. Not 3 months before you leave. Start now, as you may find you have a much bigger job ahead of you than you thought. Don't leave it until you have to slash prices, give things away, pay to store them, or worse still, let the whole thing drag the move back. We've kicked off the process and we've already found 2 things we'd do differently, and certainly a financial watch out. What to start selling first, what is not worth wasting your time listing individually, and why storage is usually dead money. Look, it's not a perfect formula and it's certainly not for everybody. It's what we're learning from actually doing it as we go, and it may save you some frustration and some cash. Stay to the end to see the financial reward we're treating ourselves to if we stay on track. For us, the decision to actually sell the unit itself was relatively straightforward. We only moved to the area for work. The unit was always meant to be a temporary step before we bought something larger. And then the review happened, followed by the redundancy process. And by that point, upsizing no longer made sense because we were unlikely to stay in the area. And once we ran the numbers and decided the unit would be sold, we thought the rest would be fairly simple. It was not. Deciding to sell the property was far easier than deciding what to do with everything inside it and what comes first. That was our first mistake. We started with some of the emotional items, and I thought this was the biggest opportunity. Boy, was I wrong. It created procrastination and, let's say, some very spirited discussions. So my suggestion now is to start with the broken things, the junk, that potentially creates room and also creates a little bit of momentum to ease into the emotional items, because you also don't want to leave them till the final few weeks. And I think I possibly underestimated the emotional difficulty in some of the decisions that, for Tash particularly. For me, I couldn't wait to move. I'm redundant, and the next part for me is overseas, so I was ready to get rid of everything and go. For Tash, it was very different. At first, she was still very emotionally attached to things, and I guess it was almost like some sort of a safety net or security blanket, and she wasn't initially ready to let go of it. And I've worked out that you can't force the emotional decisions to all happen on day one. You obviously can't allow them to go right to the end either, but certainly not on day one. So we found that starting with the junk and the meaningless items, that gave us some momentum then to reduce the rest to stages. And we've worked out that we'll keep and sell the best, bundle some of the rest, and then move the obvious excess now and come back to that category again, sort of once the move gets closer to finalisation, and that we've already moved, a fair chunk in the first instances. Because once you build a little bit of momentum, we've found that it starts to flow and you can start to work on the things that need the longest runway. And for us, those are the things with the smallest buyer pool. We're already rural, so we've got less of an audience. And the things, of course, worth the most money, you want to sell them earlier where you can, to allow time to sell them for a fair price and not rush sales. Then it becomes the furniture, collections, hobby equipment, and anything that you're emotionally uncertain about letting go. It gives you time to think that through without making rash or rushed decisions. And I think those are the decisions to start making earlier on, after you've started to build a little bit of momentum with stuff you don't care about getting rid of. We used a simple test in the end. Have I used it in the last 12 months? Would I pay to take it overseas with me? Would I pay to store it for 2 years or perhaps more? And if I didn't already own it, would I want to buy it again today? If the answer to that is no, then it probably needs to go. We've also found, looking through, that we've carried so many things from house to house simply because we always have. I've got bottles of port that I've carried around since my army days. They've moved house with me for roughly 30 years. And I looked at them recently and realised that apart from probably not being any good, they actually don't mean anything to me. I was keeping them because I guess I just always kept them. And I think this leads into the next lesson, which is not everything deserves its own marketplace listing. There's some branded or nearly new items that probably, despite being good, just aren't worth selling individually. And we just don't have the time to do that. So we've come up with 3 basic lanes. Sell your valuable and easy to price items individually. Bundle useful items that have low individual value, but together, will potentially form something worth selling. And then donate or dispose of anything where the selling process will cost more in time and frustration than the likely return that you'll get from it. Personally, I'm not interested in organising 15 separate pickups over the course of a few days to sell something for $20, and have people at the door umming and ahhing and not turning up and asking stupid questions and then you get donuts. To me, I just don't have the time or the patience for any of that. And at some point, I think getting it out of the house, that's the return. Even when it's worth something, the real workload is not necessarily in the listing. It's in the cleaning, photographing, researching, as I said, answering the low and stupid offers, arranging collection and dealing with people, which can be a bit overrated at times. And that's why we are also suggesting start as early as you can, because it's potentially a bigger process than you first imagined. So I think that's definitely something worth doing. The third, or the watch out, the call out, is storage. And this one, I guess, basically comes from my working experience and the roles I've had. To me, as a general rule, storage is dead money. If what you're storing isn't gold, deeply personal, then you're probably paying month after month to avoid making a decision on something that is diminishing. A, it's diminishing value naturally, and B, you're value adding to something that isn't worth it in the first place. Obvious exceptions are your family history, genuinely irreplaceable items and the things that have real meaning, heirlooms, etc. But ordinary furnitures, appliances, the household stuff that deteriorates or ages in storage and can be easily and cheaply replaced on marketplace should the need ever arise, that won't be taking up any of our hard-earned in storage. For the small amount that we'll store, it will be genuinely personal or the difficult to replace, and it will have a defined space, and it will certainly have a date attached to it where we need to get it to wherever we are. We're not going to let it become an indefinite storage unit full of decisions that we're avoiding making. And I guess following on from that, the last thing that we're very conscious of is setting a date to have it all completed. It may have to tie in, like it will in our case, with a property sale, but without a date, the decluttering just becomes one of those jobs that you potentially just keep putting off. For us, we've set ourselves to have all but the essentials done before we list the unit, and we're targeting November to list the unit. So, and I think, this is particularly true when the possessions are emotional. There's always another reason to hold on to them a little longer, and there's another reason to push the move back. A fixed date forces a decision. So for us, the lessons so far have been fairly simple but important. Start as early as you can. That's 100% the first one. Start with the junk and the useless so that you create some momentum to start earlier on the valuable and emotional items, because you certainly don't want to leave them to the end. don't waste your time on the small items from the get-go if you can. Obviously minimize your storage and be very conscious around what you're going to store and why you're going to store it. And then finally, don't let the stuff delay the move. I mentioned earlier the reward, and for us, for the last few trips, we've wanted to stay at the Marina Bay Sands when we've gone to Singapore, and we've gone close, but we've always bailed due to cost at the last minute. So we've said to ourselves that if we achieve and stick to our deadline, we'll reward ourselves with a couple of nights at the Marina Bay. Now, this may not be everyone's choice, of course, but look to do what works for you. There's got to be some reward at the end of all this. Before the final move, I'm heading back through Southeast Asia, 4 countries, 7 flights, 5 cities, carry on only, and I'm going to look and test out some places and look for some info on places that we're seriously considering. So in the next video, we'll discuss some of the things that I'll be aiming to explore in preparation for the move early next year. So like and follow us, and we'll take you through the trip as it happens. Tell us below who in your family will have the most trouble giving things up